Welcome back. If you're back after the first video, I hope you enjoyed it. As promised, this is the second video in a 3-video sequence that I think takes the mask off of MAGA and gives us a sense of what we can expect going forward. This is Office Hours with Dr. Bell. I hope you enjoy. Let's get right to it. So, in the first video, I talked about the looming MAGA split between tech MAGA and what I call MAGA Classic or OG MAGA, specifically over the issue of H-1B visas. Just a brief review, tech MAGA likes that. They want those visas. These are high-skilled immigrants mostly from India or other Asian countries, and MAGA Classic hates that process, hates those visas. And the point of the first video was twofold. One, I wanted to show how this long-standing critique of culture has been used quite effectively by both Democrats and Republicans, whites, blacks, other races, to propel themselves into political, superstardom, or, just get votes in the regular election. It's been used quite successfully for decades, and it stems from this academic theory of the culture of poverty. Some folks use it in good faith. Some folks use it cynically to get votes, raise money, raise their profile. But Vivek Ramaswamy, Vivi, had the audacity to use it on MAGA, to use it on Trump's white base. Right? And they were not having it. By the way, Vivek is already out on the outs of the new Trump. This is like day 2 of the Trump administration, and Vivi's already gone from Doge. Google it. And the second part, or the second purpose of the first video, was to establish what MAGA likes to call America First. What they mean by that. America First means Americans first. Remember that. America First means Americans first. It sounds reasonable, right? It's if someone says, "Yo, why are you bringing in these immigrants from India and China and Korea? Why not just train the people in Michigan or in Ohio or in Pittsburgh or in Oklahoma and Texas? We have plenty of folks here who need high-paying jobs. Let's focus on training them, giving them those jobs." Okay? America first for Americans. Again, I think that's a powerful talking point that can be quite persuasive. It's not at all consistent with the history of immigration to America, but again, it's a powerful tool. And that's where this video comes in. That's where video number 2 comes in. Right? There's a caveat to America First means Americans first. Right? There's some fine print that you just gotta read. To understand just who they mean when they say Americans. Because it doesn't apply to all Americans. That Americans part of America First means Americans first. It's not for all Americans. What do I mean by that? Recently, we've had a big tragedy on the West Coast. In California, in LA, these wildfires. This is not wildfire season. Typically, California is used to the idea of wildfires, but not in January. Right, so it's just been devastating. One of the worst, if not the worst, wildfires in our country's history. The recovery, the buildup, is going to take a lot of time and a lot of money. Okay? So many people have lost everything. They've lost their lives in some cases. They've lost loved ones in some cases. They've lost their homes, their cars. I've seen a video of a plow truck just driving down the street and just plowing through people's cars to get them out the way so fire trucks can get up there, right? There's reports of insurance companies refusing or canceling people's homeowners insurance. It's going to be an ugly, rough, uphill climb to even return to some semblance of normalcy. You have to understand people's homes, your home, for many of us is a big part of our identity. It's a part of who we are. We make memories there. Maybe you raise kids there. Maybe you have just random memories about a squeaky door, right, or a step that's not quite fixed, or that old stove, or that old microwave, and it becomes a part of who you are. And for many people in California, that's just gone. It's been destroyed. It's been devastated. Now, you would hope that in a time like this we can come together. I know we are polarized right now. We are super duper polarized right now. And we have our political silos. Right? We want to own the other side. But these images out of LA, if this doesn't bring us together, okay, what will? If we can't come together for this, a natural disaster, one of the worst we've seen, then what can we come together for? Right? If this doesn't do it, what will? We should come together. You would think, not as some kumbaya political utopia. I mean, to respond to this natural disaster. You would think helping these people will be the focus. Of course, that's not the focus. Of course, that is not the focus. Why would I even think that? Why would I even go there? To be clear, I'm sure there are many people in California, in LA, on the right and the left, and across the country who are focused on that. There are some people who are just trying to help other people. A lot of folks have set up GoFundMes for strangers. A lot of folks are giving money. So I want to be clear. There are many people who are doing, I think, the responsible thing in trying to respond to a tragedy in just an apolitical way. Just how can I help someone? However, some of the loudest voices and the folks with the biggest microphones and the biggest platforms are doing the exact opposite. I'm looking at you, Donald Trump. Looking at you, Elon Musk, Megyn Kelly. So many people have almost immediately they took this tragedy and they turned it into a political football, a talking point football to just toss around at their whim, at their leisure. Over the first couple days of this tragedy, the most common word you would hear is fire, and then water, and the next is DEI. DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. So many of people, folks on the right, people involved in MAGA, not just MAGA though, some normie style Republicans, some so-called centrist or moderates, they've been using this as a way to attack DEI programs, to go after diversity, equity, and inclusion. Now, you may be asking yourself, how did DEI cause this wildfire in California? And you're right if you're thinking it didn't. It didn't. Okay? Not at all. Okay? DEI has become the new Republican boogeyman, the new talking point. It used to be CRT. For a while there, CRT, critical race theory, was all the rage. All kinds of viral videos, people showing up at school board meetings. But that fizzled out. As most political topics do, that fizzled out, went away. But of course, you can't let the issue of white grievance go. That's too potent. That's too powerful. That's like the MAGA lifeblood. So just switch out the acronym and hope no one notices. They went from CRT to DEI and like clockwork. Didn't skip a beat. The biggest target of these DEI complaints have been the fire chief, Kristen Crowley. Kristen Crowley is a woman. She's a lesbian. And because she's a woman and a lesbian, she has been pegged as a DEI hire. Everybody. Okay, that's exaggeration. Not everybody. A lot of people in MAGA, a lot of Trump supporters have been talking about She's like the archetype. She's Exhibit A for A, DEI hire, and B, why they're dangerous, because she's so incompetent that somehow she caused the wildfire, right? Or she made it worse. To be clear, anybody in a position of power, like a fire chief, a police chief, a president, a governor, no matter how qualified, can mess up. And if they mess up, they are, fair game for honest critique, honest criticism. And once the dust settles and we do a full review over what took place in California, the response, and if they find shortcomings and limitations, they should critique her. She should be held accountable for that. I'm not saying she's immune from critique. No one is, right? But these DEI complaints, they happened immediately. They happened once people saw who the fire chief was. Before anybody knew what the fire chief did, they saw who she was, and that was enough to say she was a DEI hire. Right? So let's dive into this a little bit more, because maybe you're watching this and you're not a fan of DEI either. Maybe you think it's a backwards form of affirmative action. It undermines merits, meritocracy. So hear me out. I'm not trying to convince you that you're wrong. I'm not trying to persuade you on DEI. There are some DEI efforts that are really good, that are really effective, that are really popular, that have shown results. There are some that are pretty shitty, pretty bad, right? They're ineffective, they're expensive, they're even discriminatory. Those programs do exist, and I have no problem calling that out for what it is, right? So this is not some blanket shield for DEI programs. But in looking at LA, the LA Fire Department and this fire chief, let's just dive into the facts. First, the reason that the LA Fire Department has a DEI program is because of their own systematic failures over decades. You have to understand, they investigated themselves. They had outside independent investigations of their own practices, and they found systemic failures, department-wide failures on multiple fronts when it came to hiring practices, promotions, discrimination, harassment, qualified applicants of color, qualified women. We're getting passed over. Right? We're getting passed over. This is a very, very diverse place. One of the most diverse places on planet Earth. And the extent to which all the major positions were going to straight white men, right, defied logic. Right? And again, they investigated themselves and determined, okay, we have a problem. They hired an independent investigator way back in 1990. Hey, this goes back decades. And they said, oh, you guys got a problem. Okay? Women who were getting sexually harassed would complain and get punished for blowing the whistle on being harassed. There was all kinds of issues. And it wasn't just some bad actor. It wasn't just an employee you could fire, get rid of the bad apple, as they say with cops, right? It was a systematic failure. A department-wide failure. So they employed these initiatives, these DEI initiatives, to address those systematic failures. If you oppose DEI in general, or in the case of the LA Fire Department, then what is your plan to address those systematic failures that they found themselves, that an independent investigator found? What's your plan? Okay. I'm all ears. It's an honest question. Okay. Secondly, as it pertains to Chief Crowley herself, this woman has 24 years experience, almost a quarter century of experience with that department. She was a firefighter. She became an engineer. She became a captain, a battalion chief, an assistant chief, a deputy chief, and now the fire chief. She literally worked her way up. This is the American dream in action, you would think, right? This is the American dream in action. Someone who began as a firefighter and in the span of a quarter century worked her way up to become fire chief. That should be celebrated. That should be celebrated. Under no definition of the word is she unqualified for that job. Now, is she doing a good job? I don't know. I'm not qualified to speak on that. Did she mess up during these wildfires? We'll find out. But the idea that she's a DEI hire, right, with her resume, is just a mask off moment. Mask off moment. It's not about what she's done. It's not about her qualifications. It's about who she is. She's a lesbian woman. And for much of MAGA, not all, for much of MAGA, that was enough. That was proof positive that she did not earn that job. She's a DEI hire. DEI means didn't earn it for some people. She did not earn that job. So DEI has not just been used here. It's been used in the past, recent examples. It's been used to describe Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson, because then President Joe Biden said he wanted to appoint a black woman as president. So that was enough for folks to say she didn't earn it. They ignore everything else he said, that we've had qualified black women over time who've been ignored, so I'm going to prioritize one. They ignored that part. They ignore her resume. You can't look at her resume and say she's not qualified. And they ignore that, I don't know, Ronald Reagan, he promised that he would put a woman on the Supreme Court, and he did. Donald Trump, in the fall of 2020, after the death of RBG, he said he was going to replace her with a woman. Look it up. Google it. In fact, I'll do it for you. Okay? He promised to put a woman on the court. Nobody screamed DEI. Nobody in MAGA, for Reagan or for Trump, said, oh my gosh, she didn't earn it. That's a DEI pick. Maybe the operative word is black, because Reagan and Trump said woman. Biden said black woman. And that was enough. That was enough to take it from smart strategic politics to didn't earn it, to DEI. Kamala Harris, when she was chosen for vice president in 2020, so many people said she was a DEI pick. The idea was that Biden picked her to appeal to black people, and that made her a DEI pick. Well, that's not uncommon. Do you know why Donald Trump picked Mike Pence for vice president in 2016? Because Mike Pence was going to help appeal to evangelicals. Do you know why Barack Obama picked Joe Biden in 2008? Because Joe Biden would help appeal to working class whites in the Midwest. Nobody accused them of being DEI picks. Do you know why Kamala Harris chose Tim Walz this time around? To shore up her white votes in the Midwest. It didn't work, right? But nobody accused him of being a DEI pick. Okay? It only applies to certain people. It only applies to certain people. So how does this connect to the first video about, America first means Americans first? Well, Americans are only some Americans, right? America first means Americans first, but not those Americans. No, not him. Not the right color. Not her. She's a lesbian. Nope. America first does not apply to all Americans. If you look like me, if you love differently if you're not heterosexual, if you, are a woman, okay, you can be embraced by MAGA. They'll see you as qualified, so long as you agree with everything they believe. As long as you toe the company line, you're all good. You're in the club. You're one of us. You're qualified. Good job. This is why they got behind Herschel Walker for U.S. Senator in Georgia. Talk about unqualified. Talk about DEI, right? If Herschel Walker started talking about being pro-choice, or raising the minimum wage, right, or expanding healthcare coverage, single-payer healthcare, something like that, then all of a sudden he would have been seen for what he is, which is an imbecile of a man, right? So there's caveats to it. As long as you agree with us, as long as you talk like us, think like us, vote like us, you're qualified as can be. You deviate, you gotta go, as Vivi is finding out right now. America first means Americans first, but not for all Americans. Their idea of American is straight, white, male. That's their default. Everyone else has to qualify as American. You can qualify, okay, but you got a thin line to walk. Hello, Vivi. Okay, it's straight white male. And listen, I'm not anti-straight white male. I don't want you to take that away from this video. There are plenty of straight white men who are hella qualified for any number of positions in the economy, in politics, etc. I think straight white men have done a lot for the country in the past, in the present. Personally, I mean this in all sincerity, I'm grateful for them. Okay, I have no beef with them, even if they vote differently than me. Here's my thing, though: they're not any more inherently qualified than I am, than a woman is, than a lesbian is, than a gay white man is, or an Indian immigrant. Okay? Essentially, MAGA has racialized merit. Not just MAGA. To be fair, it predates MAGA. But MAGA wears the jersey today. They have racialized merit. They have sexualized merit. Straight white male equals merit. Everyone else has to qualify. And here's how I know. I'll close with this. Here's how I know. The current nominee for Secretary of Defense is Pete Hegseth. Pete Hegseth, Fox News anchor, weekend Fox News anchor Pete Hegseth is the current nominee for Secretary of Defense. This man will be in charge of the American military. He'll answer to Trump, the commander-in-chief, but that's it. Okay. You understand? This is the lethalest, the deadliest military on planet Earth in the history of humans. This is a very expensive and massive bureaucracy with so many moving parts, rising global tensions between superpowers, and that's your nominee. He's not qualified for this job. Everybody knows he's not qualified for this job, but he will get confirmed. He will get confirmed. Okay? He fits the bill. He's the default archetype of what it means to have merit, what it means to have earned your position, right? Not Ketanji Brown Jackson, not Kamala Harris, not Christian Crowley. No. They didn't earn it. They're DEI hires. But Fox News anchor Pete Hegseth is somehow qualified. He merits to be Secretary of Defense. You can't rationalize that other than merit equals straight white male by default. And he fits the bill. Now, I'm going to stop here. That wraps up video 2. It's a third video, though. A third video that in some ways I think is the scariest of my opening 3 videos. It's about where I think MAGA is headed, and it's not in a good direction. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed. Please like, share, comment below. If you disagree, if you agree, I want to hear from you. But yeah, I want to get this thing rolling. So thank you for joining me today, and I will see you in the next video. Deuces.